Good morning, Britain. The heartbroken aunt of the 19-year-old who was killed when the Titanic sub imploded says he was terrified of the trip and only took part to help celebrate Father's Day with his dad. Both Solomon and Shahzada Dawood died instantly when the sub suffered a catastrophic implosion. Tributes have also been paid to fellow passenger British billionaire Hamish Harding. His family, describing him as an inspiration, said he'll be remembered as a loving husband and dedicated father.
With interest rates now at their highest in 15 years, money-saving expert Martin Lewis will be on the programme to tell us what, if anything, we can do to try and help the mortgage misery facing millions of families across the country.
Would FOMO make it a no-go? Could you go on holiday without your phone, is the question we're asking, because an island off the coast of Finland wants to become the world's first phone-free island. Could you cope with a mini break without your mobile, or does the thought of it bring you out in a cold sweat? We're debating that later on the show. Text us, of course, with your phones.
Oh, Tom, how are you, young man? It's so good to see you again. Have you missed me?
I missed you.
I bet, right?
Yeah.
I bet your life's been a husk, right?
It has. It has.
Best friends reunited. Dickie cruises the red carpet with Tom at the premiere of the brand new action-packed instalment of Mission Impossible.
Another day of heat, humidity and sunshine with just some isolated showers. The outlook turns cooler and fresher. I'll have all the details of that and more coming up on Good Morning Britain.
Friday, 23rd of June, 2023. Live from Television Centre in London. This is Good Morning Britain with Ben Shephard and Ranvir Singh.
Good morning to you. 2 minutes past 6. Hello.
Good morning to you. I think it's the headlines and the news that we'd been terrified of hearing, but almost expecting as the days have been wearing on.
Yes.
The search for the vessel.
And it came through quite late last night. I was trying to go to sleep. Obviously, we have to get up really early for the show, and I was just sort of nodding off, and then I was told, oh, they found it. And then for hours, you know, you just lie awake, and I'm sure I can't have been alone last night. Many people must have just been lying there thinking, because I think I know there's been lots of controversy about why we're paying so much attention to this and not the other. And we're going to talk about that with our news panel this morning. You know, the migrants who've died and so on. There is something about the race against time and that feel of they could have survived if they'd been... But then now we find out they couldn't have been.
Because it was instantaneous.
It was instantaneous. And I found it extraordinary when they were talking about the immediate understanding of what the debris looked like, told them it had imploded practically 1 hour, 45 minutes into the journey, which is when...
And it's the scale of the rescue mission that had been launched. You know, the UK had been sending over sort of equipment from here. The French had been involved. The sort of Canadians, the Americans... You know, the whole world has been gripped by what has been going on in the desperate hope that something could be done.
And the extraordinary fact that came out yesterday of Stockton Rush, the man who launched and was CEO of OceanGate, who launched this whole project, going down to see the Titanic, his wife was the great-great-granddaughter of a couple who died on the Titanic. Yeah. And they had died because they'd let women and children off early. So this lifelong fascination, same with Shahzada Dawood, a lifelong fascination
from a child
with the Titanic. It has this pull for certain people, doesn't it? And it's a very tragic end. And, of course, that is our main news this morning, isn't it? Tributes have been paid to the 5 true explorers, as they've been described, who lost their lives after the Titan submersible suffered, as we've said, a catastrophic implosion. This coming from the US Coast Guard last night. Large parts of the sub were found yesterday, 1,600 feet from the Titanic wreck after it went missing on Sunday. Yeah, 3 British nationals were on board, including the youngest victim, 19-year-old Solomon Dawood. His heartbroken aunt said he was terrified by the trip and only agreed to go on a bonding trip with his father because, of course, Sunday was Father's Day. Juliet Dunlop is in Glasgow for us, outside Strathclyde University, where Solomon was studying. Our North American correspondent, Noel Phillips, is in Boston, where they announced what had happened yesterday. Let's join Noel first in Boston. So, Noel, it's so incredibly sad, isn't it? The news that we were all desperate not to hear finally was announced. The US Navy said that they detected implosion sounds after the sub lost contact.
It really is a haunting thought, and that US Navy official told us a short time ago that their underwater detection system used for national security purposes heard sounds similar to an implosion or explosion. And Ben and Ranvir, this really is significant because it now gives us a clear timeline of what happened when that sub lost contact. The disappointment was etched on their faces as they delivered the news no one wanted to hear.
We found 5 different major pieces of debris that told us that it was the remains of the Titan.
I offer my deepest condolences to the families. I can only imagine what this has been like for them.
The missing submersible known as Titan broke into several pieces after suffering a catastrophic implosion due to the extreme pressure below sea level. These 5 men on board died almost instantly, including Hamish Harding, whose family said he was a dedicated father. The Coast Guard confirmed debris from the sub, including its landing frame and rear cover, were spotted just 1,600 feet from the resting place of another ocean disaster, the Titanic.
We were all praying for a miracle that they would be found.
Angelica's 2 uncles were among 1,500 people killed on the Titanic when it sank in 1912, and this tragedy has brought back painful memories.
There will always be a void in my family that will never be filled because there's no one to bury.
Just like the world's most famous shipwreck, the end for those on the Titan submersible was dark, lonely and terrifying. It is now up to the UK, US, Canada or France to decide whether to take over the responsibility of recovering the bodies of those who died. Noel Phillips, Good Morning Britain, Boston.
We can talk to Juliet Dunlop, who's outside Strathclyde University, where the youngest victim was studying. Juliet, the families of the passengers have said that they are united in their grief.
Yes, morning, Ranvir. Well, after days of hoping, days of searching, this was, of course, the worst possible outcome. Absolutely the news the families had been dreading. All 5 men who set off on this adventure to view the Titanic lost in this terrible, this tragic accident. And as we know, 3 of those on board were Britons. The youngest victim, Suleiman Dawood, just 19. He was a student, as you say, here at Strathclyde University. He had just finished his first year at the university's business school. His friends here have described him as fun-loving, someone who enjoyed science fiction, who was a whiz at doing the Rubik's Cube. And he set off on this trip, as we know, on Father's Day with his father, businessman Shahzada Dawood, someone who was fascinated by the Titanic, who worked with charities, who was a keen explorer. But also, as we know, Suleiman's aunt has been speaking of her nephew's concerns about heading off on this risky trip.
He had a sense that this was not okay, and he was not very comfortable about doing it.
Now, the family of the other Briton, Hamish Harding, they have also been paying tribute, describing him as an adventurer, as a dedicated father, a passionate explorer. And they have also thanked all of those involved in this massive search. But as this rescue mission now moves into a recovery operation, well, the government says it will support the families over the coming weeks, the coming days, but certainly questions about the safety factor of this trip. But at the moment, of course, all the focus on the grief of those families involved.
Juliet, thank you so much. That is our top story. Coming up, we'll be joined by the former Home Secretary Jackie Smith and Lord Ed Vaizey. And we've got Boris Johnson's former special advisor, Samuel Kasumi, who is the most senior black civil servant in Boris Johnson's government, wasn't he? And he's got a lot of interesting reasons about why he resigned and whether he's fully revealing why he resigned.
Written a book called The Outsider.
Yeah, The Outsider. It's a journey of discovery he saw. So we'll be talking to him about his thoughts on the current political situation here. But first, here's Sean with the day's news.
Ranvir, thanks very much indeed.